Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing guests from all around the world. And today I have another amazing guest. He is the CEO of qiibee. His name is Gabriele Giancola. Gabriele, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jamil. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and yeah, thanks again. Real pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. It's an honor. So let's kick things off and ask everybody the same question. This to kick things off, and I get all kinds of wonderful answers. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, very cool question. Very cool question to start. So background is I'd say twofold. We're born, both my brother and I, which are the co-founders of qiibee, in an entrepreneurial family. So our parents just got started a company when I was born, and that basically meant our whole life was seeing our parents being entrepreneurs, also in the tech space, different area, but also let's say in state-of-the-art technology. So we really learned them from the ground up. We're big gamers. So that played a big influence in talking about loyalty points, talking about tier statuses, perks, etc., and really giving us a bit that aspect maybe from another angle, not learning it in marketing school or something like that, but really learning it while gaming. And that really brought us then to trying to understand, okay, how can we use these kind of mechanics for brands, right? So that they can actually get more value for their customers, but then also from their customers. So we really started helping out companies on their loyalty strategies with gamified features, etc. We built our own loyalty program with some gamified features and really learned from the ground up what it means from a user perspective, from a brand perspective, from a strategies perspective, etc. And so what we're doing today was a very logical step, an organic step, because it was, let's say, step-by-step learning where we have to go and giving us the guidance through all the, let's say, milestones that we had in life. Some, of course, more luck, because you have to be born in an entrepreneurial family to have the luck to see it. The other ones, gaming, was a thing that came naturally.
That brings up an interesting point. What were some of the benefits of growing up in an entrepreneurial family that other your peers wouldn't have had?
I would say that growing up in an entrepreneurial family, I mean, shows you really how, first off, how you can build from an idea, from something that is a thought in your mind, to actually a company that then has hundreds of employees. It is actually generating a lot of value for a lot of people, and seeing how, and I mean, of course, you see it first with your parents. When you then grow up, you look around. I'm using a MacBook because somebody actually sat down and had that idea and actually executed it, right? And with so many things, with the chair I'm sitting on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that really, I think, was the first, kickoff that you get where you see it by yourself. You just see by yourself how that happens. And then when you grow up, I think you spot certain opportunities in the sense that learning opportunities much easier because I saw that already. I already saw that when I was, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. I mean, I remember when I was 5 years old and I was going to kindergarten, I was passing through back then they had the office still in the cellar of the house. So I was passing through the office and I was asking the secretary, were there any calls for me? And so, I mean, that was like often you get that really from small on, you see what it means, building a company. And of course, also I mean, you also see what kind of sacrifices you have to do. You see how hard you have to work. And that honestly is more a normality when you see it from the beginning. And you have less, at least I had less issues to go all in and to sacrifice a lot of my free time. My brother, the same thing, and just pushing as hard as possible on the vision that we have.
That sounds like aligns well with being an entrepreneur. So great. Okay, qiibee, what is it all about, including your mission, your vision,
Yes.
your value?
Yes, for sure. So our vision is to make reward currency is one of the largest payment methods. Why? Because there's a huge amount of cash behind it. There is an estimation that there's around $500 billion worth of rewards all around the world stuck on different accounts. So if you calculate all the millions of rewards members that are out there, from United's airline that has more than 100 million rewards. You have an Adidas club that has 250 million reward members. So there's a lot of people that are a lot of points on different accounts. So that gives you a lot of purchasing power out there that actually could be used for the economy. So on consumer side, to give you more purchasing power, you don't have to spend your hard-earned money. On the other side, you have more purchasing power for companies. So what we say is, if there is more liquidity for these reward currencies, there is actually also more value for customers and for brands. So what you need to do is you need to make them tradable. And it's already the case right now. If you look at American Express, they're the largest buyers of miles from Delta Airlines, because what they do is they allow you as an American Express customers to exchange reward points to Delta Skyline miles. So the thing is, credit card companies are the first one that really know, and we're the first one that really know, hey, I need to give more to my customers. Otherwise, they will just get another credit card that is cheaper. And if they don't give the benefits, like you can convert in miles, you can convert in points from Marriott or other loyalty programs, the value for a customer to get a credit card, and this is the same logic with a lot of other, let's say, when you have to choose a brand, it happens with a lot of other moments in your life when you have to make that choice. You really look at the benefits. And what we saw is that making those partnerships between brands is a very, very cost and time intensive process. So all these partnerships are, and you see it's very big brands that work together. They take 12, 18 months to actually go through commercial conversation, legal agreements, technical integrations, and then the effort to reconcile all these databases when that stuff happens, when the exchanges happen. It's super, super intensive. So what we saw is that with blockchain, we can really bring a lot of efficiencies in that specific process. And that's actually what we work on, making really these reward currencies more tradable and very efficiently tradable, so that this partnership can happen much more frequently, and you as consumer have much more liquidity out of your reward currencies. And brands, at the end of the day, have also more value, because behind those points, again, there is a lot of money. So every transaction that happens, also brands benefit from that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So you just said, I think, a few magic words there. You said untap the hidden potential of the economy. A lot of economies around the world have been pretty stagnant, you know. How can you help to unleash that? You know, what's possible?
I mean, when you look a bit at the market, and we were already deep diving a lot in a few details, but if you look at the market, how it's evolving, a lot of brands are using more and more loyalty points. So, and what that means is and that's why gaming, I said at the beginning, gaming, if you look at gaming, it's the same idea. If you game, you get points. With those points, you get whatever perk, whatever status that you want in that specific game. Brands start doing exactly the same thing more and more. I mean, airlines were the first ones that were pioneers in this space to start rewarding you with miles and giving you the status, etc. Now, if you start growing, let's say, the amount of points that these brands are start issuing, you have really an untapped market that grows. I think BCG calculated with around 26% a year. So huge market, and because it's a lot of value that is going out, there are a lot of loyalty points that are being issued. So the market, the 500 billion, are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, you need to convert that purchasing power, because if it stays locked on different accounts, and we're talking about, in certain cases, a few $1,000s worth of miles, of points, etc., that people have. So we're not talking about cents. We're really talking about a lot of money that is lying around, and that can be used because there is a clear economy behind all these reward currencies that, again, is also not very visible, because you have to really go into the yearly statement of the United Airlines, of a Delta airline, and go through, search for reward programs or loyalty programs and see how much revenue did that generate, how much profit did it generate for the airline. When you start seeing that, you start seeing suddenly, okay, these are the mechanics that you actually can transform these reward currencies in actually purchasing power, because it's being done, but it's not being scaled. And that's where we come in. With our tech stack, we can really scale all of this, because making partnerships is as simple as clicking a button in our case.
Got it. Okay. So I came into crypto in 2017. And I was part of an early rewards points project that failed, right? Then you mentioned the airlines, then you had COVID and no one's traveling, you know? But now, like, now it seems like the right time to, and transform the rewards economy. So why
Mhm.
now being the right time?
So also that I'll tell you a bit. I want to tell you a bit something regarding COVID because it's an interesting point that you mentioned. So it might be a bit counterintuitive, but that was actually for us the perfect time in the sense that airlines, and that's what I'm saying. Like if you look at the revenue streams and the profit streams of an airline group, I have to say, you will start seeing that the airline itself produces a lot of revenue, but very very thin margins. If not even they lose money on the flights, right? So where they make profit is on cargo and on the loyalty program. So there they make the most amount of profit. Actually, I have to say not revenue but profit. So that actually keeps them cash heavy and also being able to invest in other departments, right? So in that moment where COVID came, of course the airline business shrank. So what that meant is they were much more open to push the frequent flyer business, so the frequent flyer program business, meaning that we as a younger company had a huge opportunity in that moment because we could show them how they can generate more revenue with us, but while decreasing the costs with state-of-the-art technology. So for them, it was huge because we were actually solving a real issue that they had. They needed like airlines need cash to like every company. And if you have COVID that doesn't let you do your main business, you need to see suddenly, okay, how can I actually work on the other side? And the interesting thing is we all stayed at home. So we all used our credit cards heavily. What that meant, we all got points. These points got converted in miles. So the airline made cash in that moment to the miles. So and those are a bit those counterintuitive dynamics that you don't see if you don't really dig deep and check out the market. So for us, the right timing from a commercial perspective was really COVID was really really important, just also to have that awareness and to have that urgency from let's say a customer or a client perspective. I would say today what is essential is really that blockchain is a completely different point. So if we're talking about 2017, I mean, I was also there, so I saw the hype. I saw the conversations in which direction they were going, etc. And I think that we gained a lot of maturity in the last few years, and in the sense that it's not anymore a very extreme view of how you use blockchain technology, but actually it is much more, which makes sense. You much more want to go towards product market fit, which essentially is technology market fit. It's the same thing because you want to have a technology that gives some value to the market in whatever use cases it is. And in certain use cases, it makes sense to have, for example, full decentralization like a Bitcoin, right? That's fine. That has its use case. It's very, very clear why decentralization needs to be top notch. There are other use cases where you have some features of decentralization that are maybe not really needed, right? And not even needed, but actually not wanted because not every brand or not every company wants to put all their data transparently on a blockchain. So if you ask a United Airlines, hey, do you want to put all your loyalty points on the Ethereum blockchain? And now that Delta can actually just make a search on Etherscan, United Airlines token, and then I see exactly how many wallets do you have, how many transactions do you have. Not, I'm not saying it will never happen, but we'll need a bit of time to get there, like to open up such a company. Also, just from a data privacy perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So there are so many things involved, and that's where we say, okay, the maturity of the market is much further from a brand perspective, but also from a technological perspective. So there are much more solutions that actually go towards these needs, which are more privacy, which are giving less ownership because there are certain legal frameworks that don't allow it. So where you want to use certain specific features from blockchain technology and not just like go full in decentralization and just use every feature out of it just because we need to be fully decentralized. So I think it's really making that change, providing value instead of just pushing a technology that maybe is also just in the head of certain people through the whole market. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. United has their flight information, everything on EtherScan, and the Deltas are looking at and getting their intelligence by looking at EtherScan. I didn't picture that, but yeah, I can see it. But you have a tech stack, right? You have a blockchain based tech stack that enables seamless earning, spending, and conversion, right? How does your tech stack serve as a game changer here?
Correct. Yeah, so basically all what I told you until now was really the biggest learning. I'd say talking with a lot of brands, understanding consumers and seeing what are actually customer needs. So going from there and the other way around. Now, how does the tech stack have to look like? And the first thing, of course, if you start at the bottom, the blockchain infrastructure, the first thought was, okay, what are the needs? So from the customer perspective, and which features do we actually need to allow, let's say, to use a customer? So there we really started. We said, okay, we've built our own blockchain infrastructure that is Ethereum based, but we can actually, let's say, give different sets of functionalities to these brands if they want to open up their loyalty program, if they don't want to open up their loyalty program, if they want to give a certain ownership or not to their users. So really giving them the control through also the second part of the tech stack, which is let's say the loyalty platform, which is a dashboard for brand where they can really set all the features of their loyalty programs, they can connect with partners, etc. So also there, we didn't build the blockchain infrastructure and said, here is the blockchain, now go work on a few cool use cases. But we really built the API to the blockchain, the platform to the blockchain. So they have dashboard with analytics and everything. They have a loyalty white label solution if they need it, where they can plug and play and directly launch it to their customers. And the cool thing is really that it takes all the friction away. It takes all the friction away that you have when you work with blockchain, when you want to partner up with another loyalty program, when you want to set up your loyalty program. It's really doing that at the end of the day. And by taking that friction away, brands are much faster. And if they're much faster, they can actually provide more value to their customers. And more value means really more liquidity for their loyalty points. So you can connect faster to a miles and more and issue directly miles or accept miles as a payment method with us. And the fastest onboarding that we did, just to give an example, was I think 3 hours, something like that. So we're talking about really speed on another level, depending, of course, how fast both parties move. But if you want to be fast, you can be very fast with us. And taking that friction away is key, is really, really key to unlocking the purchasing power of these reward currencies.
Yeah, the client on board in 3 hours. It's pretty impressive. It's really great.
Yeah. I was also impressed. I have to be fully honest. Because it fits perfectly. I'm like, okay, it really works. If they both are there and they do it right away on the brand side, then it can be super fast.
That ties into the
And
game.
customers, by the way, have instant exchange of miles. So you don't have to wait 48 hours. Like the 3 hours is setting the partnership between the two companies so that it's up and running and customers can start earning and spending miles, for example, in this case. And they were instantly rewarded in miles. So the cool thing is that as a consumer, you also gain a huge amount of value from a speed perspective, because it's not like wait 24 hours, 48 hours until your points are on the account, etc., and you can actually use them.
That ties into the gaming aspect, right? Into your gaming background, So I'm wondering what that's going to look like. I was asking about instant access for brands, but you just explained it to me. How does your gaming experience come into play here? Because I think it does.
100%. I mean, I have to say, it really comes as a user. So, and I think at the end of the day, it's also the most important player in this whole puzzle, because if you don't make the consumer happy, then the consumer won't buy at a brand. And if the brand is not happy, they won't use our solutions, or let's say connect with other brands. That's why we really focus and try to understand what is the end customer's perspective, what are their needs, and that is an instant exchange. Because I made that experience myself. I wanted to book a flight. I saw I have some credit card points. I can exchange it to miles, and I can actually then book my flight, right? Now, I did all of that, and then I saw in 72 hours, you will have your miles carried. Oh, okay, let me wait those 72 hours. What happened in that time? The flight got more expensive, So yes, I paid with miles, but at the end of the day, it cost me more miles than I actually expected, and my user experience was super bad because I took my time in that moment to book the flight because and a lot of people have a busy schedule, so you maybe have time in that specific moment, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to book your flight and get it done. You don't want to have another, let's say, 72 hours and then let me check there again if there's availability, how much is the cost, etc. That's not the customer experience that somebody wants. If you ask anybody and you ask them, do you want to have your miles instantly on your account? Nobody will tell you no. So we have to start there. And if we know that, then you have to basically build the platform back so that you can actually integrate it in a brand's user experience and that it can fulfill the needs also of the end customer. And gaming came really into the whole, I would really say, experience something that you see how fast things move and you learn it really from, I mean, a lot of gaming hours. So I would say we understand all these points dynamics, status dynamics, tiers dynamics, etc., very well because from a very young age on, we gained a few hours. So we learned that in and out. But then, of course, growing at product design from also customer experience, etc. I studied business management. So that intersection, I think, plays a lot into how we think about all these let's say models in the rewards market.
Excellent. Excellent. So you are in Zug, right?
Yes,
Crypto Valley. I want to go there. So
correct.
I want to go there someday.
Please come.
I will. I mean, Switzerland's a little different than the rest of the world as far as crypto. You guys are more advanced, you know. But so I want to find out internally what challenges remain for developing rewards points, in Switzerland, and then we'll talk about outside of Switzerland. But let's focus on what the challenges are where you are first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we're in beautiful Switzerland in Zug, Crypto Valley, as you mentioned. I would say from a regulatory perspective, they're very, very far ahead. I would say we're very far ahead to giving, let's say, companies, projects that want to get into the blockchain crypto space, very clear framework compared on an international level on how you have to move. So that gives you a lot of peace from the founder's perspective, entrepreneur's perspective, because it's not changing every 2-3 months, and you have to really keep up to date with all these regulations because otherwise you make something wrong. And you also, again, have a very clear framework, so it's easier to work from that perspective. Of course, Switzerland is a small market, so we're talking about a million citizens. The largest loyalty program here has 3 million members. So the scale, if you look at take Germany, where you have Adidas with the Adi Club that serves internationally, has 250 million members. So we're talking about different scales. US, the same thing. United has 100. I think Delta has 110. So we're really talking about very, very large scales where all these problems that I mentioned before are also on large scale. So we're talking about completely different amount of volumes that customers lose, that brands lose from a time perspective and from a monetary perspective. So the challenges are for sure that we can't stay in this kind of market, in this size of market, if we really want to be a global player. So but that's a very, let's say, natural challenge, let's say, that you have in Switzerland if you want to actually grow globally. What is really, really good that you have a high density of talent, although we look globally for talent always. So that's really, really something cool. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of projects here. So you get a lot of, let's say, know-how, exposure to all these other projects that helps a lot to just think further and see more wider in the market.
Excellent. So now let's talk about the U.S.
Yes.
On Friday, I had to drive about hours to take my son to his rowing regatta championship race. They won, by the way, but that's irrelevant. When I was, I had to go past New York. I had to go past northern New Jersey, and there's three major airports in my area. And on Friday, there was a Microsoft, issue where they had that canceled 2,000 flights. The traffic was a beast trying to get past all these airports. how are you set up for, like, I would call that anywhere else a catastrophic event where the airlines had to cancel thousands and thousands of flights? How are you set up to be able to support the airlines with, so that unforeseen event? And how are you set up, and what are the challenges you looking forward to facing in that kind of situation and scenario?
I don't want to be in the shoes of the airline first thing, because that's of course major outage. So you have to juggle a lot of different fires at the same time, which is a really hard job. Luckily, we work on the reward currencies and not on the flight. So that means that you have a bit of a higher tolerance if your loyalty points, let's say, would arrive 1 or 2 days later. But if your flight is delayed 1 or 2 days, it's a completely different story. So that's the first point. We touch, I would say, a less sensible topic than the airline itself with the flight. And that's, let's say, our luck in this case. In the other case, I mean, of course, it depends. It depends a bit what your setup is, but in theory, it shouldn't happen. In theory, it shouldn't happen with real decentralization, because if you're not depending from one player, then that outage shouldn't happen, because you have a lot of other nodes in that case that actually maintain the source of data that you need to actually make all these application work. The question is, we're talking very holistically. What kind of data was impacted? What really was impacted, to understand what then actually could have been solved by blockchain? Because I'm not saying, hey, blockchain would have solved this. Not at all. There might have been some pieces of the whole outage that you could say, hey, this wouldn't have been impacted that much, for example. But this kind of, I mean, if a Microsoft, let's say, if that happens on that level, yeah, then they have the highest level of security, et cetera, et cetera. So it's difficult to right now as a young startup to have more security than them. So if it happens to them, you might have also some impacts out of it. We weren't impacted, luckily, so we didn't have any issues with it.
Right. So I'm just thinking, that's good. Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. So,
at the end of the day, yes, because in this kind of cases, you are a bit depending on large players. If I think, yeah, I mean, if you see it, if an airport is depending from these kind of players, then it's difficult to not be as a smaller company in comparison.
Yeah. Well, I'm flying this week. I'm actually flying tomorrow. I'm going from Nashville, which they have the Litecoin Summit. So I'm looking forward to that. Cool. That flight was $150. I booked it many months ago. Today it's a little bit more. It used to be where you get flights, closer and get them cheaper. It doesn't exist anymore. So,
no. That's why I have to use miles.
Yeah, that's why you have to use miles and use your rewards points. So it's just pretty cool. So, I want to thank you very much for speaking with me today. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I guess one last question is really, how can people find out more information about you, about qiibee? How can they become customers, become members of the loyalty points? How can they do that?
I would say check out. We have two websites. One actually for more for B2B customers, qiibee.com, and then the other one, qiibeefoundation.org, and also our Twitter channels. There we have always updates about what we're doing on both. I say on both sides because one is more B2B related. So if you want to build your own blockchain-based loyalty program, if you want to make your reward currencies tradable or something like that, just hit us up on that side. And if you're a consumer and just want to know where can you actually get into the whole qiibee ecosystem and get, let's say, benefits from all these rewards, because we're actually building a blockchain-based loyalty program ourselves that we want to offer to the Web3 and Web2 community. So we're doing some tests. We have a few thousand users now where we did a few of soft tests, but they will be rolled out also in the next few months. So we're trying to really put all the learnings and all the values that we've built from more on the B2B side, really try to incorporate them in this loyalty program. So really, really looking forward to that. And again, go on these channels and you will have all the updates. Yeah, and it was honestly also for me a real pleasure to talking with you. It was really, really fun, super exciting, and yeah, hope we talk soon again.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks a lot for yours. It was a pleasure.